This week's Hot 10 is one of the best that we've ever done. Welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher.
So let's jump right into it.
We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. What is going on YouTube? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and thank you for joining me for another Hot 10 breakdown of the week. If you guys aren't familiar with what I do in this video, I take the 10 hottest comics according to the Key Collector app, and I break them down for you guys one by one, letting you know which I'd be buying, and of course which I'd be staying away from or possibly even selling. But before we get started in the video, I want to thank you guys for getting me to 6,000 subs. I cannot wait to get to 7,000. Hopefully we'll get there a little quicker. With that said, if you're not a currently subscriber, hit that sub button for me, smash that like button because it helps the algorithm out, and check out all the new merch I have for sale down below. You will not be disappointed. With that said, let's get into this week's books. Starting off the list at number 10 this week is some Golden Age goodness. It is a copy of Batman number 5 and the debut of the Batmobile design with the bat-shaped head on the front, and a CGC 8.0 just sold for a whopping $11,700, up an insane 179% since 2011. Then we also had a CGC 4.0 sale for $2,880, up 5% since this past June. I will say this, I love these Golden Age Batman covers, this one especially because it's a yellow cover. If you have the scratch and you want to spend this kind of money on a Batman issue, go right ahead. I don't think you can go wrong. If you don't want to spend that kind of money, I do not blame you. If I'm going to spend personally that kind of cash on a book, I want it to be a first appearance or a major key. This one is not, but still I am definitely giving it my blessing. Coming in at the 9th spot this week is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 41 and the first appearance of the Rhino in this classic cover by the great John Romita Sr. and a CGC 9.2 just sold the prior week for $4,200, up 8% over the average. Then we had a CGC 6.0 sale for $618, up 13% over the average. Every time I talk about this book, how underrated the cover is, because I absolutely love this one. Nobody gives John Romita Sr. his fair share when it comes to this cover. Regardless, the first appearance of Amazing Spider-Man villain, I think it's a must-own, and it's not too expensive in mid to low grade. Again, you don't need to own a 9.2. I think I have a 4.0 in my collection signed by John Romita. Other than that, if you want to own a copy, buy yourself the grade that you can afford, but definitely a must-own book. At number 8 this week is a copy of Journey into Mystery number 85 and the first appearance of Loki, God of Mischief, and a CGC 5.0 just sold last week for an insane $3,000, up 6% over the average. Then we had a CGC 2.0 sale of $1,450, up 15% over the average. Way back when, I was killing myself because I could have had a 225 for around $500. We're talking about 5 to 6 years ago, and then this book shot up in 2020 and 2021. Now we're getting a little bit of a dip now that we're in 2023, but it seems this book is heading higher with Loki season 2 just ended. Again, I haven't started watching it. I'm just about to start it right now, so no spoilers down below. And if you're not a huge Loki fan, I would say I would take that money and probably put it towards a better Silver Age key or more desirable Silver Age key. Other than that, I'm definitely a buyer of this one. Back on the list at number 7 is another Silver Age key. This time, Amazing Spider-Man number 6 and the first appearance of the Lizard. It seems a lot of these Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man villains are getting their due. Either way, a CGC 6.5 just sold last week for $2,250, up 7% over the average. We also had a CGC 1.8 sale of $679, up 8% over the average. You guys know I'm a giant Amazing Spider-Man fan. I own all of these Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man first appearances, and yes, this one is definitely one you should own. However, I will say this, over the years this book really hasn't been an investment book, just a book that I definitely would want to own, so keep that in your head. Own the book. You don't have to go out and get a super high grade just to have it, because it's really not going to go up in tremendous amount in value over the next few years. Regardless, I still want to own the book. At number 6 this week, and still on this list, is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 361 and the first appearance of Carnage, and a CGC 9.8 just sold the prior week for $475, up another 19% over the average. I told you guys this book has been printed to death back in the 90s. I do want to own the book just to have it in my Amazing Spider-Man run, but outside of that, I don't want to spend almost $500 on a 9.8 copy of this one. Probably want to spend either $100 or less just to own it. Other than that, I'd definitely be staying away. At the 5 spot this week is the King of the Silver Age. Guess what? It is Amazing Fantasy number 15, and I am so happy to see this book finally back on this list. It is, of course, the first appearance and origin of Spider-Man. Also, the first appearance of Uncle Ben and Aunt May. And we just had a CGC 5.0 sell for an insane $69,601, up 33% over the average. Then we had a CGC 4.0 sale for $37,365, up 6% over the average. Then we had a CGC 3.0 sell for $29,449, up only 3% over the average. I can't tell you guys how happy I am to finally see this book back on this list. This is the king of all Silver Age books, and definitely a book you must own if you're a fan of Spider-Man. Now, I know it's crazy expensive, don't get me wrong, but hey, I'd rather be buying this book and saving all my money up, not buying anything else, so I can go out and afford a copy of Amazing Fantasy 15. It is the best long-term investment going forward over the next 20 years, in my opinion. This book is always a buy. At the 4th spot this week is what else? G.I. Joe Real American number 1 and the first appearance of Team G.I. Joe. And a CGC 9.8 newsstand copy just sold for $1,350, up 6% over the average. Hey, I always say this, if you guys want to buy this book to $100, $150 just to keep it in collection, I'm always fine with that, but to spend $1,400 on the first appearance of G.I. Joe, I always rather own the mint on card toys before I want to own this book. But just my opinion, I know a lot of people out there want to own this book, even in a direct edition. For me, I just can't do it. Coming in at number 3 this week is a copy of New Mutants 98 and the first appearance of Deadpool, the Merc with a Mouth, and a CGC 9.8 newsstand copy just sold last week for $2,764, up 8% over the average. You guys know I'm a buyer of this book, the direct edition, for under $1,500, but only for the long term. I do believe once Deadpool 3 comes out, this book is going to dip, so if you're not buying for the long term, definitely do not purchase it right here, right now. Hey, if you're a newsstand collector, to each his own. You guys know I'm not. Other than that, if you're not willing to hold for the long term, I'm definitely staying away, but definitely a book I'd love to own. Back at number 2 this week is a copy of Uncanny X-Men number 130 and the first appearance of Dazzler. This is also the second appearance of Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost. And we just had a CGC 9.6 sell last week for $479, up 11% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.6 newsstand copy sell for $620, up 32% over the average. You can see not that much difference here between a 9.6 direct and a 9.6 newsstand. That's why I really don't like buying them. Regardless, you guys know Dazzler is going to be played by Taylor Swift. There, I said it. I think it's happening. Ryan Reynolds kind of hinted at it in his last interview. So hey, if you want to go out and buy this book just for that, be my guest. I cannot do it. I do not want to own this book because Taylor Swift is playing that character. Hey, if you want to buy it for if you want to buy it for around $100, if you find a lower grade, I'm all for it just to add it to the collection. But other than that, I think you're nuts for spending this kind of money. And finally, at the top spot this week, and it is all based on spec, it is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 210 and the first appearance of Madam Web. And we just had a CGC 9.6 sell last week for $280, up 12% over the average. We also had a CGC 8.5 sale of $130, up 20% over the average. This book was on the list last week, now at the top spot. You guys know I just picked up a mid-grade copy off of Instagram for only $48. So again, if you want to buy this book just to own it, I'm okay with it. But why do you want to spend this crazy amount of money on the first appearance of Madam Web, even though we know that Sony is going to fuck up that movie? Regardless, guys, that is the Hot 10 breakdown of the week. Some new awesome books finally on this list. Some hot Silver Age keys. If you haven't checked out my latest video of the Instagram sales that happened over the past couple of weeks, do yourself a favor, check it out, because it's telling you what people are buying right here, right now in our community. It is now time for my best buy of the week, and if you haven't guessed it, it is a copy of Amazing Fantasy 15, one of the most important books in comic book history. It is always a buy. Enough said. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.